All right, let's get a break in because we got Lynn Turner scheduled, and like I said, he's in Russia. I don't even know what time it is in Russia, but let's get Joe in and see if we get a good phone connection and talk to Lynn Turner coming up next on Trunk Nation.
With Eddie Trunk.
AC/DC, and then Foghat, Boston, Foreigner, Journey. Still bring it as good or better than anybody else.
Sirius XM just rocks. Volume. Trunk Nation with Eddie Trunk.
You are my drive home every day. Thank you for flying the rock and roll flag, man.
Sirius XM.
Sounds amazing to this day.
Volume.
And we're back, talking rock with you daily here on Trunk Nation on Sirius XM 106 Volume. We're going to go international right now. Talk to, like I said earlier, an old friend from my home state of New Jersey, but these days he is in Belarus. And I was telling Ed, I said, let's make sure that the phone connection is good because we're essentially dialing Russia. And, we call people who are next door and the phone sounds like shit. We're calling Russia, and Lynn Turner is with us crystal clear. JLT.
Yo, Eddie, how are you, man?
What kind of cell service do you have over there, man? That should be an ad for the most unbelievable service I've ever heard. You sound like you're next door.
MTC is pretty good. Yeah, it's very clear. No worries.
Beautiful. No delay, no nothing. How are you, man?
Yeah.
I reached out to you. I don't know what's going on with you. I'm glad that you got in touch because first and foremost, I want to hear how you're doing because I sent you a text. I don't even know if you still have the same number, but I was so concerned about you when I heard you had, I guess, a heart attack or whatever. Tell everybody what happened.
Yeah, I did. First of all, in a word, I'm doing great and better than ever, actually. On April 12th, I had come back from Japan, had a few days, and was pretty exhausted. And the next thing I knew, here I was in my office here, as I'm sitting in the same chair, and I just started to get these pains in the chest. And obviously, it was a myocardial infarction, and I was rushed to the emergency ward, and they operated on me. I watched the whole thing on the Sony TV. It was pretty nuts.
Whoa. So wait, they did an operation? Like they had to open you up?
No. There wasn't open heart surgery. They go in.
Stent.
Yeah, that's right. So they go in through your thigh, and you go in through your arm, and with the wires and all that kind of stuff. And you're conscious the whole time. It's not a problem at all. It doesn't hurt.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing because it's surreal when it was happening. And anyway, you have to lay up in the hospital for a while. I mean, it is a powerful thing that happens to you, so you have to regain your strength and your druthers and all that. And then I started to do physiotherapy, and now I'm at 3 times a week. I'm stronger, fitter, and eating clean, no alcohol, nothing, and I'm better than I was before. So it's
when this happened to you, Joe, did you lose consciousness? I mean, were you just feeling pain and you got there in time? I mean, how much danger were you in?
No pain. The pain, yes, absolutely, there was pain, but no, I was fully conscious. There was no blackouts or anything like that. So luckily, and I'm doing great. I mean, all my tests are positive. The one thing I've got to say, while I've got the chance now, is to thank everybody. My social media went crazy. You included, my friend. Thank you so much for all the positive love and vibes and care and concern. It was just such an incredible outpouring that it really kept me going and brought my spirits up very high. And I couldn't have had more positivity in my life. And I thank God for each and every one of everybody out there. Really.
Well, I mean, you got a lot of fans and friends, and myself included. We were all worried about you, and it's when I first, like I said, I reached out as best I could, and then when I heard you wanted to come on, I was like, because not only do I want to let you promote whatever you got to promote and talk music with you, but because I always love doing that. And we've been doing that for decades, but I mainly was concerned about how you're feeling and what happened here. So not to dwell on this, Joe, but it's important because we're all getting older. I mean, we all think we're invisible and we're we're kids again, and this stuff creeps up. And when it happens to people we know or like, it's like it's a wake up call. For you, did you have a family history of stuff? Were you somebody that stayed on this, or did this come out of left field?
At left field. I mean, I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would have a heart attack because I had a strong heart all my life, et cetera, et cetera. So this came out of left field. The one thing I do realize now is that I was really overworked at the time. I felt exhausted, and there must have been, and I'm pretty sure there was something wrong with one of my arteries. So that's as much as I can tell you, and I should have had it checked out. So I would urge everybody, get a stress test as you're getting older, because stress tests can really pinpoint these things, and you can get them taken care of before this happens. I'm lucky. I thank God for a second chance, but it's something that will change your life for the better. More positivity, more. I think you become more awake about everything, more careful about everything, and to me, I'm more blessed than I've ever been. So it's quite amazing.
And were you able to call for help, or was your wife or somebody there?
My wife was there, yes. My wife Maya was here, and no problem at all. So I was lucky that way. I'm very lucky. And plus, she's taking care of me the whole time. I was in hospital for about 3 weeks, but it's like a country club. There's an unbelievable clinic here. And we tried to keep the press away. That's how it all got out, because the cameras and a lot of fans were outside for about a week straight. They wouldn't leave the hospital grounds, that is. And we weren't going to make a big deal out of it or anything. You know, we were just trying to keep it on the down low, so to speak. And we couldn't do that because it was big news. So when I go out now to a restaurant or whatever, people are always like, "Hey, glad to see you're back." You know, I was big news for a while here.
And how's the health care there?
Amazing. That's what I'm saying. This clinic, I call it a clinic, but it's a huge, beautiful new hospital, really. And I couldn't be under better care. Really, I could not be under better care. So that's why I just sat tight. We talked to some doctors in New York just in case we had to. You know, especially Maya. She did all the research and everything. She is my angel here, and we were ready and prepared in case we needed something else. We had some of the best doctors at Columbia University and Cornell and everywhere, and they were really ready to help and jump on it. But all of their advices, after they got the test back, and we sent a CD of my diagrams and everything else, and they said, "Look, you're in good shape. Just live the rest of your life, continue on, and be happy and thankful." And I said, "That I am." So I'm here by the grace of God. So I'm going to take it slow, doing a few gigs, warm up, and then come October, November, December, I'm full out. I am full back out, doing full shows and having a great time.
Now, we should talk about this, too, because this, for people that haven't kept up with you in your career and may not even figure out what you're doing living essentially in Russia and everything. What's a Jersey guy doing there? You why are there people outside of the hospital or whatever? I mean, you've always said this over the years. You have had an unbelievable fan base in that country. Talk a little bit. Are you living there full time now, or what's going on? Give everybody the overview of why you're there and what it's like. You know, what the Lynn Turner fan base is like throughout Russia.
Shows. The fan base throughout Russia is incredible. Belarus is Belarus, really. Belarus, beautiful Russia. The girls are amazing here, guys, just in case you're interested. A lot of the bands that come through here really know all about it. And we get everybody through here, first of all. I know I'm digressing, but it's we've got amazing, you get everybody from Rammstein, Aerosmith, you get everybody. And anyway, my wife's family is here, and we decided to build a house here because this is one of the safest places on earth right now. And we also, live in the United States. That's my country. I love the United States of America, and I'll never leave it. But at the same time, I'm very close to Europe here, so I can go to Paris in 2 hours. I can go to Madrid, Barcelona. So a weekend for me is like you driving down to the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, I know.
And I could go to these places, which we do. and had done before I was laid up a little while here, and doing my therapy. But it's wonderful quality of life here. So the fan base is amazing. In fact, I'm doing a big Harley show here in about 2-3 weeks, and it's I can't tell you. Russia has been very good to me, and it's not what people think. People need to travel. You know, Eddie, people need to see what it's like instead of listening to propaganda. You have to get out. I'm fortunate, and all the rockers are fortunate, because we get to see the world. And if we're lucky, we get to see the world with our eyes open and our ears open, and we start to see the truth of what's happening. No country, no government, none of that is perfect. But at the same time, you actually see what the people are about and who they are. And they're just like you and I. They want families, they want love, they want a decent job, they want a good life. And they are such an appreciative crowd. And somebody once told me, go where you're loved and respected. And there's a lot of love and respect out here. So I do very well here. And then, of course, I'm so close to Europe. I've been doing a lot of shows in Europe. And that's really the long and short of it. So I just figured, hey, it's something different. I've lived 50 years there. I'll live another 50 years here.
You know, because a lot of people have said that to me, and over the years, I mean, you've been on my shows when you have been home in New York, New Jersey, and people have always said, you know, where's Joe? Why is Joe always in Europe? Why is Joe based doing so much stuff in Russia? It's a completely different world there for you. How did that, for this audience, Joe, how did that happen? Why is it that Russia, of all the places in the world, had this incredible bond with you and your music? Do you trace it back to your time in Deep Purple, or what really triggered that?
Yes, actually, yes. And what happens with that is because I'm part of that family tree. I'm lucky enough to be part of the family tree of Deep Purple and Rainbow and so on, and all of the tributaries thereof, like Whitesnake and whatever. These bands were extremely popular in Russia. For example, if you ask them about Journey, they really don't know Journey. Journey was not popular. Big in Japan, things like that. But in Russia, these were the bands that broke through the Iron Curtain way back when. In fact, what made me more popular specifically was when I went with Malmsteen, and we did that whole 22
Leningrad.
dates. Yeah, live in Leningrad. We did 11 dates in Moscow, 11 dates in Leningrad, and back then it was Leningrad, and this was before the second Glasnost and everything happened in the opening, and before the peace concerts, before Bon Jovi and Motley Crue and everybody got there. We were there first. And we played to 22,000 people a night. In fact, I went to see an Aerosmith show at the same venue, and we had sold it out more than they sold it out back then. So it was quite interesting that these people just latched onto it, and I became an icon. And then I went all over Russia, and I mean all the way out to a place called Vladivostok, which is way out by China. Okay. I mean, I was on the Orient Express. I was in February in the middle of winter, toughing it out on the trains and everywhere else, and played everywhere. So that gives you quite an amount of respect from these people, and they just fall all over the music and love it. I mean, they're truly sincere music lovers, and especially with this type of music. So that's what gives me the edge here, is the family tree and me putting in the time to show up.
Do you speak the language now?
Yeah, чуть-чуть, по-русски, a little bit. I'm learning, you know, but
Jersey guy speaking Russian. I love it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've always tried, out of respect, to speak a little bit of every country I've ever been to, including Japan, you know. Everywhere. I've always tried to pick up some pieces of language. I was always good with languages. Spanish was something I learned in school, so I'm kind of fluent in Spanish. But at the same time, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So when I came to Russia, I had a few words, enough to speak to the audience, and they really appreciate that. When you do that, you're showing great respect to them, to their culture, and they really respond to that in a big way. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's very important, I think, for people to do that, even if it's one word, even if it's spasiba, which is thank you. You know, I've noticed a lot of artists do that, though, when I watch YouTube or what have you. They do learn a bit of the language. So it's not uncommon. A lot of people speak English here. That's not the problem. But at the same time, I've never really had a language barrier, no matter where I went, because people understand what you want, what you need, what they need. I mean, it's all the same. You can do it in the eyes, you can do it in the hands, and you speak the same common language. And that's the thing that unites the world, really. Just lay down your guns, because we're all the same. That's
what
really
do you miss? What do you miss most about the U.S.? I thought of something. A number of years ago, you did my show, and you were telling me your favorite restaurant here in America was Cracker Barrel. They don't have any Cracker Barrels in Russia, do they? You must be missing those dumplings, right? The chicken and dumplings. What is it, Joe?
Yeah, the ribs. But they got some ribs over here, I got to tell you. Oh, man. You know what? There's so much to miss about the States. And I go back to the States, so I live there. I live here. It's not like I live anywhere else. I'm a planetary visitor. I've always said that, yes, I'm an American. I'm an Italian American, specifically. But I'm an American first, and I'll always be. So we live here. We live there. It's just a matter of where we are, when we are. I have family there. I have a grandchild there now who I absolutely adore. We have a house there still, and it's okay to be, let's put it this way, to have two passports, if you know what I mean, dual passports. It's not a problem.
Have you tried to sing since you had the heart attack?
Yeah, I sing here. I sing with my guitar here, but that's why I said we're going to start a few gigs. I'm doing this gig with an orchestra, only going to sing about 4 songs. And then we'll do another gig. I might sing about 6 songs. But it's not a problem because I'm more fit now than I was then. I have lost, I don't know how many pounds. The body's back in shape. They've been working me hard. This is not the kind of therapy where you're walking around with a cane and a pair of slippers. You're walking in a gym and you're working out. In fact, we put it on Facebook just to show people this is what the therapy is like. It's no fooling around. When you come out of there, you're absolutely full of sweat. I'm boxing and I'm pulling, and it's all techno gym equipment, brand new, state-of-the-art stuff. So I just love it. I do it 3 times a week now. I used to do it 4 times a week, so you can imagine. So I'm going to be fine, Eddie. I got no problem.
Well, that's what I want to hear. That's what we want to hear, that you're fine across the board. That is the most important thing. Now, listen, I know you got a lot of stuff you want to talk about on the music front, some things I want to hit you with. You've got a new record with Sunstorm, which people here in the U.S. may not be too familiar with, but I want you to fill everybody in on that. And if you can, Joe, hang with me through the break. We'll come back and we'll talk about all that music stuff that we need to get to. And going into the break, we'll give everybody a little taste, Ed, if you can get a little music from Sunstorm ready to go. We'll give everybody a little taste of what this band sounds like. We'll hit the break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll talk about it with Lynn Turner. So, Joe, you good for a little while longer?
Yours, Ed. It's good to talk to you, man.
You too, man. So we'll put you on hold, and we'll come back to Lynn Turner, who, again, is joining us live from Belarus, and we'll give you a little taste of what we're going to talk about here in a second. The band is called Sunstorm. Ed, give us a little bit of that, and then we will take the break, and then we'll talk to JLT some more into the next hour here on Trunk Nation, live on volume, Sirius XM 106.
We would talk to this guy like he was like Gandalf.
Trunk Nation.
That is one well-run show.
Sirius XM.
Freaking killed it.
Volume.
All right, right, we appreciate Joe Lynn Turner holding through the break. He is joining us from Belarus on this Tuesday. At least we called him, so we're not making Joe pay for the call while he's on hold. Which I'm sure wouldn't be cheap. And Joe, you're we talked about your level of fame there throughout Russia. I mean, do you know Putin? Have you met Putin?
No, Medvedev. I had never met Putin, but Medvedev comes to my shows. And,
really?
Yeah. That's it's very interesting. I was playing Crimea, or as we say, Krima, and I was doing 4 charity shows, and one in Yalta he came to. It was amazing, and we had tea and all that stuff. And then I got back to the States, and I was subpoenaed by the Treasury Department.
Really?
Yeah, they wanted to know what the fuck I was doing over there. Yeah, this is international intrigue, Eddie. This is what I mean. People don't get this shit. They don't understand what's going on. And it was all on the up and up. We were doing charity work. I was doing charity work, and it cost me about 25 grand in lawyers out of D.C.
Oh my gosh!
Just to explain to the United States Treasury Department that I was a good boy and I wasn't doing anything evil or trading any secrets or any of that.
I was saying before, I mean, in the news all over here, and I'm sure there too, is this Trump-Putin meeting coming up. I said, look closely if there's TV coverage, because you might see Joe Lynn Turner providing the entertainment in the background.
Well, I'll tell you what, the closest thing I got was I was in Moscow at Red Square, and they were going to do this big thing called Russia Day. It was like May 5th or something, I don't know. And they were setting up the stage, and they wanted me to appear because they were really appreciative of what I was trying to do in Crimea, for the kids and the free concerts and stuff like that. So anyway, I actually got a call. They couldn't do it because it was all computerized down to the minute. They couldn't fit me in, but I got a call on my cell phone from Putin's the press secretary. My wife picked up the phone. Maya picks up the phone, and her face turns white. She hands the phone to me, and it's him. And it wasn't Putin himself, but it was his right-hand man. And I was like, holy shit. So he reached out to me. So that's pretty cool.
And there's a statue of you. Is it true there's a statue of you there?
Is there a statue of me here?
In somewhere in that country?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that.
Someone told me there was a Joe Lynn Turner statue somewhere.
I don't know. You know, they're just, I've heard maybe in Bulgaria because they have some of Dio, you know, and a couple of rockers. Maybe that's what they meant. And somewhere in Varna or something like that. You know,
right.
But
well, if there isn't one, there should be. That's all we're saying.
There should be, right? Yeah. Well, I ain't dead yet. But they try.
We'll put one there, and we'll put one in Nutley, and you'll be all good.
Yeah, Nutley. That's where I need a statue. Hey, how's the family, Ed? Everybody okay?
Everyone's good here, Joe. Everything's good. You know, we're in the heart of the summer, and everybody's doing well. Thank you. So let's talk about some music stuff. Going into the break, people heard a little bit of Sunstorm. You are one of the great melodic hard rock singers of all time, man. You still got the pipes. Some great guitar playing. It sounded like in that track.
Yeah.
For people in the U.S. who aren't familiar with Sunstorm, tell everybody about it.
Well, Sunstorm. This is Sunstorm 5. This is the 5th Sunstorm project. I was only going to do a trilogy 3, but apparently they're successful. So Serafino over at Frontiers coerced me into doing number 4 and 5. And I think they've been progressing as we've gone through each phase of Sunstorm. So it's kind of a project that has its own life. And this last Sunstorm, maybe you can get an idea by a couple of tracks that you played. It's melodic rock for sure. But melodic hard rock, but at the same time, it's got a modern edge. We've got great players. In this particular one, I threw my hat in the ring with a bit of writing and lyrics and melodies and stuff like that again. So I did the vocals in Prague, but I was in Prague for a couple of weeks, and I needed to get the vocals done. So we got a good studio over there, so that was exciting. I love Prague, and that's what I mean about traveling. You know, it's all combined. So I do my work there, and then. This Sunstorm record came out, and with rave reviews, I've read about 5 reviews, and I closed them immediately because I hate to read reviews. Richie once said, if you believe a good review, you got to believe a bad review. So I don't believe any reviews, and that's true. It's very true. You know how it came out yourself, or not. And I'm just very happy that people are enjoying it. The ones that like melodic hard rock. But I am doing another project, and a solo project, and it's much heavier, much darker, with Peter Tägtgren from Pain, Hypocrisy. And he's from Sweden. I'm sure you're familiar with him. And he's producing and co-writing with me. So that's going to be a whole nother thing. And I think people will be very surprised at this record as well, because it's like two faces of mine. They expect a melodic hard rock singer, and this is going to be heavy.
And for people that don't know, I mean, you've played, because a lot of the stuff you've done has been outside of the U.S. So you've done some shows throughout the U.S. though in recent years. So you're not completely off the grid here. But a lot of people have wondered, about how much stuff you're going to do in America. You did the solo records and this and that. But you look at the stuff you're best known for here in the U.S., which is obviously Rainbow. You had the big commercial hits with Rainbow here, the Purple record and the time you were in Deep Purple, the Yngwie record, which to me is still one of the best records he made because it had a sense of songs and melody, and what you brought to it was just fantastic. Is there a side of you as a still a guy who's still got such a great voice? Doing all these things and doing your solo stuff, I'm sure, is great, but is there a side of you that would like to jump back into more of an established band thing? If an established band came calling and needed a great singer, somebody to be plugged in, is that something you'd respond to, or something you're not interested in this point in your career?
I guess it would depend on the band. I always love opportunities and I always love challenges, but if it was the right band in the right situation, I wouldn't just jump into any situation. But if I thought I could fit in, I mean, there's been bands out there that have been looking for singers that have been established, and I've always said to myself, I could fill that slot, but do I fill it, or am I going to make a difference? And that's why I never threw my hat in the ring. I never even tried to do any of that, because even though I know I probably would have passed the audition, as they say, I don't think it'd be right. I am much my own artist, really, in a way, and I think only even now am I starting to come into an alter ego kind of thing, where I'm going to show people some other side of me that I don't think they expect. When I play the demos for a few certain people here and around, they look at me and go, "That's you?" And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "We would have never known that's you. It's amazing, but I wouldn't have known that's you." And that's what I can't wait to play it for you. I'll give you a sneak preview on this. So Peter and I are working on it. I'm going to be cutting some more demos this week, and I'm very excited about it because it has this new, I wouldn't say heavy metal, but maybe it is. Maybe it's part metal, it's part industrial, it's part melodic. It's something else, man. I don't think anybody sounds like this.
And I got to ask you this. For years, you were a guy that openly campaigned and talked about having that there should be a Rainbow reunion, and that Richie should get back to playing rock, and that you were hoping and working on it. I mean, you were the one guy out there that was vocal and open about saying that should happen. And here in the U.S., as I said, the Rainbow was the biggest with you in it. You had the big hit singles with them. So what is, now that a little time has passed, did it sting that you didn't get the call to do this, and now Richie's playing rock? Have you been in touch with them? What can you tell us about your thoughts about what Richie's decided to do here?
Well, Eddie, you've always got an inside on a lot of things. I listen to your shows on YouTube, and they're quite interesting, about band members, like you said, filling in new lead singers or whatever, and you even went into some equipment and all that. You're very interesting. So let me tell you this. I was emailing with Carol Stevens, his manager, for a long time. I've still got the emails. So it's a bunch of bullocks. What people's perception is that, I got stung. No, what happened was he he kind of just stabbed me in the back, in a way, because we were in touch the whole time with Carol going through this, and she was giving out feelers to different agencies, and Turner, Blackmore back again, this and that, coming this summer, blah, blah, blah. I've got all these emails. And then I guess he just decided that, no, he didn't want to pay out anybody. Because, as you can see now, it's a whole different situation. I want an authentic reunion. That was the way to do it. I had Live Nation online. I had Rick Franks wanted to do 160 shows, headlining, special guests, all the festivals, you name it. I had Universal Music with at least an EP of 4 new songs, if not a whole new album. I had people like Bob Daisley. We were lining up all of the old guys. It was going to be a Rainbow extravaganza, not only for the existing fans, but for the fans who had never seen Rainbow before. There are so many fans, I started to realize, including, for example, my wife, who are just at that age where Rainbow was broken up, basically, but they love the records. This would have covered everybody. We would have got everybody up there, Bonnet, Doogie, you name it, Rondinelli, everybody up there. And he obviously didn't want to do that. And that's the long and short of it. So I would have never done something like what he's doing now. That, to me, is not Rainbow. There's no album. There's nothing original about it. I don't know if you've heard the YouTubes or seen it live, but it's not what it used to be. And
yeah, well, it definitely to me, Joe, it definitely feels like, especially, and I don't know where he's at with it now, but initially, it definitely felt like and looked like a guy who had been out of the mix of playing hard rock for a long time, like a guy, for as brilliant of a player he is, that definitely had to shake off some rust. Yeah,
man. Well, I think Ian Gillan said it right in one of his interviews I read. She's just not playing up to snuff. And, it's kind of a lazy thing, and he settles for these guys, and it's just not exciting, and all the fire we had in Rainbow, all the different inclusions of Rainbow. I mean, come on, Ronnie Dio and Graham and everybody else, I respect all of that. All of those, sections of Rainbow were phenomenal, and I don't know. So I was not stung. In fact, I dodged a bullet, in my opinion, because if I had committed to it and he pulled the switch on me like this, and he got basically Blackmore's Night to play with him. That's who they are. That's Blackmore's Night. That's David, the drummer. It's the bass player. It's Candy, right, the background vocal. The only odd guy is Jens, who I played with Malmsteen, who was phenomenal. But that's Blackmore's Night. So,
the kids sing. Is the kid singing Ronnie? He's from Blackmore's Night too.
No, Ronnie. Candace found Ronnie. She found him on YouTube, and she found Ronnie in Lords of Black. In Chile, and they hired Ronnie because he supposedly sounds like Ronnie Dio, but not in my opinion. But that's besides the point. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to make a grand statement here about why he's doing it, because the way he's doing it is very obvious to me. You did a segment about the bands and when they replace people, and there's only like one original member. And,
or none.
Or two, or none, and they just
right.
use the name. And I thought that was a brilliant segment. I actually re-listened to that today. And that's pretty much it. I don't have to say any more. It's just.
But
like
what's surprising to me, and what's revealing about this to me, and what I'm finding interesting is that you're saying there was dialogue, like this was moving along with you. This was happening, and then there was sort of a last-minute decision, like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore, which, as I say, Joe, if you listen to me, I say all the time, a lot of these decisions, when people scratch their head about it, are rooted in money, because it's probably way cheaper and more affordable to get people that the public don't know that are going to do it because they're fans, versus the guy that everybody wants that you got to give a fair split to.
You're absolutely right on the money, hit the nail on the head, and that's exactly it. With me and some of the other guys, we don't work for a wage, as he put it. I was going to be offered a wage. We work on percentages, and because none of us are schleps, and we're all known. So I wasn't going to do anything that wasn't authentic, and he knew it, and he knew that if he did an authentic lineup, he actually would have made more money in the long run. I'll tell you the truth. And I know that for a fact because I was in direct contact with Frank's. Rock Fuel Media was going to do the videos, the whole thing. I mean, but, some people just want to take an easy way out, I guess, and that's that.
What? So that's it. I mean, obviously communication's broken down and that chapter's closed and nothing's happening there.
No. Please. There's no going back now. There's no going back. If he called me tomorrow, I wouldn't do it because it's tainted now, in my opinion. I'm sorry to say that. I was I'm sitting around here playing my guitar. I was a Blackmore's fan, right? That was my number one guitar player. I copied Blackmore. And he was my icon. He was my idol. And I always felt that he should, if he's going to go down in flames, but not like this. It's sad. And I just can't go along with that. So Carol stopped emailing me. That's the truth. That's what happened. And I read in the Parisienne, that Joe Lynn Turner doesn't know he's not going to be working with me anymore or something like that, paraphrased. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's what I figured since the emails had stopped. That's the way they work over there. They just cut off communication and you don't hear about it anymore. So I figured, okay, well, that's it, and it's not going to happen. And then I found out he said that to make it look as if I was being stung. So the perception was, that I had been, I don't know, what would you say?
Jilted.
Or something.
Or jilted or what have you, yeah.
Yeah, but not true because I would have never done this. I wanted it real deal, man. And he would have made millions if he did it this way, because there was even a big band who wanted us to open for them, and they shall remain nameless right now because they were going to have a huge reunion, and this was all planned for 2019. So that you're talking now 2 years ago before. So there was like plans for 3-4 years down the road. And just didn't work out. So, hey, bygones are bygones. No problem here. I am extremely happy doing what I'm doing, picking and choosing my quality of life and my music. So that's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
What do you make of Deep Purple pretty much calling it a day and retiring? You think it's time?
Well, I knew they were going to because I had spoken to some of the guys, and I knew they were going to. It was just a matter of time. They are graceful about it, and I think they know when Purple knows when to pull the plug. I know Morse has got his Dixie Dregs back again, and stuff. And there's Roger's always doing side projects and things. So these guys, are smart and they're gentlemen, and I have nothing but ultimate respect for those guys. So whatever Purple decides to do, they've had a long and illustrious career. I'm just proud and fortunate to be a part of that family.
And the last thing as we go through the Joe Lynn Turner family tree, I mentioned that record you did with Yngwie, and I would still love to see you do another record with him because I think you created songs with him, and it was great, and I really thought that it was the closest. The track you did, a couple of tracks on that record were the closest he ever had to radio airplay, if that's important to him, and a hit. But where are things with him these days? Do you have any dialogue with him anymore, or is that kind of turned bad?
No, the last I saw him was quite a few years ago. In fact, it was in Russia. I was playing for the Prime Minister at the time, Mikhail Fradkov, and it's a pretty good story, actually. And the agent had asked me, well, am I going to play my Malmsteen stuff? And I said, nope, I'm not playing any Malmsteen stuff. I'll do Rainbow, Purple, I'll do all that stuff. I'll do Joe Lynn Turner, but I won't do any Malmsteen. Not because of any other reason, but I certainly wasn't going to carry a guitar player to Whittly Whittly. So to make a long story short, they hired Malmsteen to open for me with no singing, just him. Yeah, he was singing. So now we're at this private party where people are in tuxedos and gowns and diamonds dripping, and Malmsteen opens for me, and I do my set, and everything's great. And we were feeling good, so I called Yngwie up on a stage, and I said, come on, man, let's jam. And I would say we almost did the whole Odyssey record.
Really?
Yeah, honest to God, because Derek Sherinian was playing keyboards, and it was a moment to remember, and it was a private. Remember, this is a private party where there's probably more security guards than there were patrons, but for the Prime Minister, remember. So, but we had a blast. So anyway, after the show, we're back at the hotel, and I walk in a bit late, and they're all sitting in the lounge drinking, and I walked up to Yngwie, and I said, "Hey, man, and he behaved himself. He was very good. He stood behind the singer, and came up front when he did solos. He wasn't kicking picks around, and he wasn't flinging the guitar, and he was really cool." So I go up to him, and I said, "Hey, Yngwie," I said, "it was really great, man." I said, "I really enjoyed that. It was an unexpected pleasure." So I was walking, I said, "Have a good night," and everything else. And as I'm walking to the elevator, I said, "Hey, if you ever want to make a great record again, call me." And as the elevator doors open and I stepped in, I heard his wife scream, "He doesn't need you." And I turned around. It was just like a movie. And I said, "Yes, he does." And the doors closed. It was perfect.
Mic drop.
It was perfect. So that was the last I saw him, except for my comment that I made when he said he didn't need or like any of the singers that he ever had.
Right.
What a disrespectful guy. What kind of stuff is that? As if we didn't contribute to putting him on the map. You know what I mean? Oh God! And
I still remember when you guys were rehearsing. I'll never forget this. Back when you made that record, I was doing a radio show back then because I've been doing this forever, and I have the tape somewhere. And you guys called in, and you were on the phone talking to me live on the air, and he was in the background shredding away, and you guys were like, "This is great." I have that somewhere, and I was just like, "Man," and that's what 30 years ago or something. It's insane how time just blows by. But I had no idea that you actually played with him. That's incredible.
Yes, and it was great. I got to tell you, it was, as I said, an unexpected pleasure because everything sounded great. I mean, they were running back and forth, getting faxes off the internet of my lyrics, because, I write them. I can't remember them all, but every line for line. But we got through the whole thing, and it was just incredible to do Odyssey again because we were kicking, man, really kicking it, and it was just terrific moment. But that last moment walking in the elevator, it's, for me, that's going to be in the book because that was perfect. Anyway, I love Yngwie, for who he is and what he is. And I know he's belligerent and egomaniac and all that stuff. But, you got to give him credit where credit's due. So, and he's still
he's gotten better. I mean, he, by his own admission, has gotten better with that stuff. We had him on that metal show a bunch of times when we were doing that show, and I mean, he was great every time. And there was, I'll never forget. And I know you got to go. I don't want to hold you much longer,
no,
but
I'm good.
But there was this one great Yngwie story for me. Early on in doing that metal show, he was the guy that inspired us to have the guest guitar player in the stands, because in the very first season, he showed up with his guitar. He flew from Miami to New York, and he showed up, and he got off the plane, and he was Yngwie. I mean, he was the full regalia and everything, just the way you want him. And he shows up, and he's got his guitar, and we're like, Yngwie, we don't really have playing in this show. We're not set up for it. He goes, just put an amp, So he noodled around going into the breaks, and that's what inspired later on the idea of having a guest player every show. And I'll never forget this, though, because there was a moment where there was a little amp, and we scrounged up a little amp, and they mic'd it off camera so that people could hear him playing. And anyone knows that for TV purposes, you don't need a wall of amps. You just need an amp to mic going into the board where they control the sound for TV.
That's right.
But the sound engineer we had that day set the amp up a certain distance away from the mic. And every time he would walk away, he'd come back and he'd find the amp closer to the mic. So what was happening was he'd put it one way, and Yngwie would put it the other way when he wasn't looking. And the guy finally came back, and he's like, "Who the hell is doing this?" He goes, "I know what it's got to sound like on TV. Would somebody leave the amp the way it was?" And this
He
ordeal was,
kept moving the mic.
yeah, he kept moving the mic. And then Yngwie just looks at me and I'll never forget, he stops and he takes a deep breath and he goes, okay, if that's how it has to be. And he sits down. And I was like, whoa, I thought Yngwie was going to start wrecking the set. And I turned around, I go, someone's been working with you, haven't they?
Yeah, he's got therapy. No,
and he goes, yeah. He goes, I'm better now. I'm better. It's okay. Let's go. And I was like, wow,
better.
all right, that's pretty good. But it almost was a little disappointing because you kind of do want to see him smash every camera and be Yngwie.
Yeah, he stopped. I don't think he probably wasn't drinking as heavy back then. But
no, I don't think he was drinking at all. No.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's funny stuff because he could be as sweet as pie. I mean, I've seen both sides of this guy, and there were times where he was just as innocent and joking and playful, and there were times he was just this monster. So, we even had T-shirts made up and stuff that said on the front, "You can't intimidate me," and then on the back it said, "I toured with Yngwie." So we handed them out to crew and band and everybody, and he saw it one day and he was like, "Oh, can I have one?" He loved it. So that was great stuff. So listen, I got to promote something.
Go ahead.
Starting in November, the band Bonfire, the legendary German band Bonfire, which I had written with Jack Ponte, as a matter of fact. You probably know Jack.
Sure.
Bon Jovi, Jack Ponte. We had written Sweet Obsession for them for their first single, and I just co-wrote their new single. And then it turns out that I'm going to be doing a 20-city tour all through Germany in November, starting in November with Bonfire. Jeff Tate is going to be on the bill with me, and people like Robin Beck and James Christian and a whole bunch of other people. So it's going to be a very, very cool Bonfire and Friends, it's called. And I just want to let people know, especially in Deutschland there, or if you want to fly over anybody, because that's been known to happen, that we're going to be doing 20 dates, and it's going to just be great. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And then I'm also doing Christmas shows. So.
Oh, you're doing Christmas shows. You're doing it. And now, for anybody in America, do you have anything going on in the U.S. or Canada that you want to mention?
No, not. Well, probably somewhere in 19. But I had just done 3 or 4 weekends before I left.
Right.
L.A., Whiskey, San Diego, that kind of stuff. Detroit, Chicago. I had done a bunch of weekend dates, Weekend Warrior stuff in the States. And crowds were really cool. The crowds were great. The audiences are fantastic in the States. So, I love them. God bless you guys, man. You're still there for me. And thank you for all your positive vibes that you sent on social media. I think I've read them all. I had the time to do it. So, but anyway, I'm sure in 2019 we'll be picking up some dates there. But I really want to get this new record out with Peter and just start something new and exciting for me. And I feel like I've got a second lease on life, and I'm going to take advantage of it.
Well, listen, man, most importantly, you're healthy, and it's great to hear your voice. And when you get back home to the States and to Jersey, we'll definitely have to get together. And my best to your wife and continued good health there. And keep us posted on what you got going on, Joe. I appreciate the time. It's great to hear your voice.
You too, my friend. You say kiss Jersey for me, will you?
You got it, man.
All right, buddy.
I'll hit the Cracker Barrel for you tonight, Joe.
Yeah, man. All right. Thank you, Eddie. All the best. Much love.
All right, man. Yep, same here. Take care. Bye-bye. There he goes, everybody. Joining us from Belarus, Joe Lynn Turner, an old friend for a long, long time, and it is absolutely great to spend some extended time with him. That's amazing. Like, you can... Like I said, I'm not even joking. We have people that call this show from next door, and it sounds like shit. And we're like, oh, man, the connection. Guy was in Russia for the last 44 minutes, and not even a glitch in the phone. And I'm telling you, Joe Lynn Turner gives great interviews. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, the guy is just... People talk and ask me all the time, hey, who are the guys you like interviewing? The guys that just talk. There's no publicist on hold on the other line in their ear. There's no talking points. Here's what's going on. Here's what's good. Here's where I got screwed. Here's where it's about the money. Here's who I like. Here's who I don't like. That's it. It's their opinion. Take it or leave it for what it is, but you're getting it as pure as you can get it. And the other thing that's amazing to me, and I don't know how this happened. Well, I know somebody's doing it, but Joe, as you just heard, in Russia. Oh, I listen to you all the time. I mean, there's nothing that doesn't show up on YouTube, which to me is great. I'm all for it. The more things that get the show and the word out there, the better.